Yeah, I would like to welcome you to our Zoom call today. Just give me a little bit of kind of background of what's been happening there. It looks like you've been coaching there for a while. You have had a ton of success. So go ahead and brag about yourself a little bit.
Oh, I'll have to let Nicole or somebody else do that. I am not
I didn't know
comfortable.
you've had 13 national
Is it
championships.
13 or 14 or something?
No, that's Rollins. We would like to aspire to be Rollins College,
No,
which
no,
is
no, but like appearances. You guys have been to
we have had 14 appearances in the NAIA, and we won 7 conference championships in those 14 years, and we had
wow.
2 national runner-ups.
Nice.
So we didn't have. So thank you. But yeah, so we originally, when my anniversary date of being hired was last Friday.
Wow, that's cool.
So I started with the university last Friday, 23 years ago.
Whoa.
As a part-time coach for $7,500 a year, 1 scholarship, and $6,000 in operating budget. And just let's think about that for a little
That's a
bit.
high school team.
Not even, no. But our university and our community has really propelled us to where now, through our NAIA years. So we were originally an NAIA program and then transitioned in the 2015 timeframe into Division II. And so that takes about 2 to 3 years to become a full member and then get up to speed to be in contention and to be allowed to compete for championships, to compete for the conference championship. So we're in the Sunshine State, which I could stir the pot a little bit in saying it's the toughest Division II conference in the country. And there are a lot of good Division II conferences, the California, the Midwest, up your all's way, Grand Valley State, Ferris, Findlay, they've done a great job. But of the last 33 years, and then I don't want to besmirch Dallas Baptist. They've done a great job. I remember when he started that program, he was still the baseball coach. He's done an amazing job. He's still a baseball assistant. And a friend of a friend was an assistant with him and said, "Hey, Coach Loopy, will you let him come to your tournament remember Indigo Lakes, Nicole, where they had the first title holders and they had some Q school there?"
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's since closed, but we used to host an event there, and he's like, would you help Dallas Baptist out? And I think they shot about 400, and I'm not kidding. Like, he was just getting it going. And then for them to win national titles and have an undefeated season, so we can't disrespect the Texas Conference. They're good. They're great. Division II golf is just ridiculous hard and good, and really good golf, let alone good small college golf. And I'm grateful to build a program from scratch, take it, I'd like to think, to the top within the NAIA, and now I'm getting to take it to the next level in the Sunshine State Conference. And of our 30 national champions in the last 33 years, it's come from our conference.
Wow.
It's the deep end of the pool, and it's good. And I think we had our best finish at conference last year where we finished 5th, but 7 of our 10 teams are ranked top 15 in the country.
Oh.
Wow.
So why do you think that is? Is that like just kids from the north want to come play good competitive golf south, or is it kind of in state? Or
I think it's I think for every program it's a little different. It's a combination of things. I think that certainly being in a warmer climate is conducive, and I think each program is different to who they cater to and who they bring in. But there's some programs that get the very best international kids that want to be in a small environment, want to be in good weather. They get northern kids that want to be in good weather. They get some kids maybe that would be a number 4, 5, or 6 D1 player, and they come in and they're 1, 2, or 3. And they have the opportunity to play because everybody wants to have that chance to compete. So I think especially as it relates to Division II. So the moniker that the NCAA gives Division II is life in the balance, right? So I don't know if you looked up the academic foundation of our institution, but it is by far a STEM school, right? So 1 in 6 of our alums are the pilots in the world. So
Wow.
1 in 6 pilots in the world.
Wow, that's
are
cool.
Our alumni. So that's not all we do. That's, because I'll be recruiting and somebody will say, hey, coach, I don't want to be a pilot. And I'm like, all right. You don't have to be a pilot. We've got the O'Malley College of Business, which is off the charts, our communications. We've got pre-med, all of our engineering. So we're a top 10 engineering school, and so many other really good, well-rounded programs. And having grown up here in the area, to see it go from 3 buildings and basically 1 degree to a comprehensive university is super cool. And to be a part of building that. So for somebody, Nicole and I have had some friends that we've played on tour with that went to a really good elite program, and they started out as an engineer, but then they won conference as a freshman and were told, you can't do engineering anymore. You need to do sport management, or you need to do undergraduate studies. And so then they don't get to pursue their academic gifting and their passion. And so what's neat, and how I kind of look at my recruiting is, how can you have your cake and eat it too? We have a philosophy called the package. So it's student, person, player. We want you to be an elite student, an elite person, and an elite player. And so there's a lot of folks that are interested in data analytics, or I've had some pre-law kids, right? And I've had some engineers and computers and all of them, and so they can come and get a high level degree. 96% of our students graduate, have a job, or in grad school within 6 months of graduation. I kind of stepped on that again. Let me say that again.
That's really good.
96% of students within 6 months of graduation have a job or are in grad school. And we go back and forth with the University of Florida, of all the universities in the state of Florida, who makes the most money as an undergraduate. So because the pilots have to kind of flight instruct and kind of pay their dues a little bit, they bring our salary down. So 1 year, well, not a lot, but 1 year, we'll be number 1 in the state, and UF will be 2, and then UF will be 1, and we will be 2. So the return on investment, that's probably the biggest thing where I spend in recruiting is look at what your return on investment is going to be of the institutions and the programs to find your fit. What's, the big thing that I always bring my players back to, and what our program is built on, is what do you want and why are you here, and what supports that. So we get from, well, I have to do this. No, like what John Gordon says, you choose to, you get to, your what and your why is what's created these steps. So, the 10 hours of study hall is going to help you with balancing all that, right? You want to work for NASA, and I've had several that have gone on that have done things with NASA and Boeing, Division I college coaches, insurance agents, chocolatier. I had a communication and business major, stay-at-home mom, became a chocolatier and professional photographer, and was able to manage her business, manage her kids, and get to enjoy that quality family time. And now she is a high school golf coach and a registrar for a private school. So you're not necessarily pigeonholed. And it's not just all about airplanes, though we love them. If you hate airplanes, then that's not a good place for you. You can't hate airplanes. But, what we do academically there and within Division II, you got a chance to succeed. You got a chance to play at a high level, study what you want to study, and have a life beyond golf or with golf. Many of my alums are playing with their CEOs. And they're like, coach, they put me on the red tees and I don't complain about it. That is just fine by me. And I'm like, you go right ahead. And it's really, helped them at American Airlines or Millennium Aerospace or, Lockheed Martin and all these different places where they go on to work and build a life for themselves, because that's the great thing about our sport, right? Like, you can continue on for years and years if you take care of your body like you're supposed to, but the relationships in the community, right? And the life skills that it teaches you, and the network and the relationship. So I really enjoy being at Embry-Riddle and being at an environment where we're going to be awesome students and awesome players. We're going to make a difference in our community, be a part of our Daytona Beach Junior Golf Foundation and LPGA Girls Golf Club. And so I have enjoyed my 23 years, and it's been a neat challenge to not have to move and relocate. I'm talking to you from my condo on the beach. Yeah, I'm rubbing it in there a little bit, Nicole.
That's pretty nice.
Got my little surfboard key rack right here. But, to be able to be, I think, at an elite level within Division II golf. And, we've got some very storied programs that have won the national championships. And now I've got every generation of my team is like, okay, we're going to honor the legacy coach. We're going to help get to the next level and get to the next level. And so it's been super fun for me to do that.
That's what it looks like when looking through your roster. Like, your players are no slouches, man. They're shooting some pretty good scores. They're pretty good players.
Well, thank you. They work hard. Today, we're in the skill instruction phase of our CARA for the NCAA. So you've got the non-championship segment and the championship segment of how many hours and days off that, you're allowed. So in the fall, they have to have 2 days off a week because it's a non-championship segment. And in the spring, that's when our championship takes place. So we can go with 1 day off a week. I balance it out based on our load and when we're traveling. And so those are questions for recruits to answer is, tell me what your structure looks like. Tell me how you qualify. Tell me what my grade requirements are to, earn extra scholarship. Like, we've got some endowed monies and some fundraising that we're doing with alumni that if you're excelling academically, whether it be through Boeing or whether it be through a private foundation, you can earn more, you can build up. And a lot of places, you need to look in how do they do the scholarship? Is it just athletic scholarship or is it academic and athletic? And so we do academic and athletic. That's how we're able to cook with gas. We're able to get it done. I'd say on average, our team GPA is a 3.5.
That's too high. That's too high. I've been to college. That's too high.
A couple seasons ago.
That's too good.
When right as COVID launched, we were number 22 in the country. We had a 3.94 GPA for the spring. We set a new record at our athletic department with a 3.84 cumulative GPA for the year. So we broke the record by a 10th. And we just barely edged out women's soccer that had 18 4.0s and made it to the national tournament. Like, it's like
you're in Daytona Beach. You're in Daytona Beach. How are you getting 4.0s?
They should be on the beach.
What are you doing?
We keep them busy.
Too hard. You're riding them too hard.
Awesome. if you want to be successful, and we've got one of the largest security studies programs, Homeland Security studies. If you want to go work for Alphabet Soup, FBI, CIA, do analytics, stuff like that, we've got one of the largest programs in the country for that. You can't be making bad decisions if you want to be in that degree, or even as a pilot or as an engineer. You're talking about top level security clearance, and then that degree load is going to have them so busy. And then on top of, okay, you've got 6 hours of workouts a week, 14 hours of practice, but the 14 hours is actually prorated per the NCAA. When you play an 18-hole round, That's not the 5, 6, 7 hours that it could be. It's prorated as 3.
Wow.
So even though we have 20 hours, because golf, there's no way we could do golf in 20 hours.
Right.
No way. And we play 36-18. So that ain't a 3-hour day.
No way. It's like sun up to sundown, those 36 holes.
They don't have time to go to down to the strip. or I do want them to have a collegiate experience, and they do. And I want to have balance too. I want to have a Saturday morning to go fishing and sleep in and take my mama to church on Sunday, and whatever she wants to go and get into. But it's about, you want to have balance. You work hard, you play hard, and you've got to be able to keep recharging all your buckets. You can't just be pouring everything out all the time. So
that's so true. That's so true in college too, and you learn those skills of how to balance. I mean, it teaches you so much about life. Let's hop into recruiting a little bit. How much, like, when you're recruiting a player, what types of things are you looking at or looking for? Are you looking at certain statistics, certain measurements, certain this and that, swing types? What are you looking for?
A little bit of everything. So to the point that we've gotten our program to, and the level where we're at, it's really a mathematical equation at this point. One more great player, half more scholarship, and we're in contention for championships. So, junior golf scoreboard and those rankings, that can help kind of gauge mathematically to be able to look for those elite players. However, I love the diamonds in the rough. I love the kid that's been overlooked, or they're going to do engineering, or I've got 3 that are in accelerated master's programs right now. Let's just let that hang in the air for a little bit.
Yeah.
3 students that are accelerated masters in aerospace engineering, accelerated masters in civil engineering, and one that will begin the accelerated masters in business, doing her MBA. They come in they've done their IB, or they've done dual enrolled, or they've done, so I'm looking for students that have kind of done that, because then they can manage their time. And they're going to be, so that's another metric just beyond golf scores. If somebody has been an AP student, a dual enrolled, then that's showing me their discipline, because it's a tremendous workload. And a lot of my interbaccalaureate, my IB students, when they come to college, they'll say, high school was harder. And our school's no slouch. So that's saying something for how they've been prepared. So when they need to do their 5 days of team practice and maybe some additional stuff on their own time, they have the capacity and the drive and the discipline to do it. So, obviously numbers mean something, but character, discipline, degree, interest, that means a lot more, because as a LPGA, as an instructor, a professional golfer, I can do the golf swing. I can do the short game. I've played at the highest level, coached at the highest level. I was 2 years old when I got my first golf club cut down for me, and I'm chasing behind my sister and my brother that are 8 and 12 years ahead of me as they're in junior golf. So I've had my experience of golf. I can coach that. It's hard to coach resiliency, dependability, passion, just good character stuff. Golf is simple. Well, for the most part, right? Those other things, that's probably where we as coaches spend most of our time, is more of the life skills and mentality things and life things than golf swing.
Yeah.
That's simple.
What's the balance of, like, you expecting them to reach out to you or you reaching out to them? How does that balance? Like, are you waiting for somebody to get on your radar by putting themselves on your radar, or like, are you kind of have an eye out for certain people, or how does that all work?
It's both. I love the onus of responsibility of a player that reaches out. What's important as you're working with your juniors is to make sure it's not the same letter to every coach, to spell the name of the institution correctly. We are Embry-Riddle. We are not Embry-Riddle, Embry-Riddle. And there's two campuses. We have the Prescott, Arizona campus, and Coach Kim Haddow and her husband Mike do an excellent job out there. Are you right in Arizona, or are you right in Daytona Beach, Florida? No, pay attention to that. And then I think that can be the most helpful for you guys as mentors and coaches is if they can provide degree of interest, GPA, SAT score, have a video ready to go. Scoring average is great. Against how many people, what yardage? As you grow into the ladder of elite programs, they're going to want it, if you're not a junior scoreboard ranking within 300, because they're really down in that mathematical statistic. It would be great. You get to play in the girls junior, you get to play in the amateur or the open, but not everybody has those resources or opportunities or at that point yet. Whatever you're playing in, do the best within, where you're at. And so within Division II golf, we'll play 5,800 minimum on a par 72 to up to 6,300 yards. I would say the average is probably about 6,000 to 6,100. And a lot of us will play in Division I events that are 6,000 to 6,300. So a majority
the funny thing about D2 and what really, for me, garnered respect, I was a freshman, I was playing at Bradley, mid-major in Illinois, and we played at University of Nebraska's tournament, and Oklahoma City came in and blew the doors off of everyone. Mm-hmm. And we're like, who in the hell is this team? Like, no one's heard of them. We got half of Big 12 there, got half of Big 10 there, got a few of us mid-majors in there, and this team comes in and blows the doors off the joint. It's like, it couldn't have kind of been more evident that, look, golf's golf, and the score's a shoot, the score's a shoot.
And that's the beautiful thing about golf is it's all equitable. And so probably what happened and when I was an NAIA coach and during that time frame is you get people that are some that are just got completely overlooked or missed or weren't able to play those elite tournaments, so they didn't get the opportunity. And there are some, depending on the school. So I want to say this carefully. The top 10 of NAIA women's golf is fantastic. It's just as good as the top 20 of Division II golf. And then I would say you put those two groups together, I would say they could hang with top 50 D1. And I would say the same for top 5 and D3. And you can't overlook junior college programs. We've got 3 that basically they're D1 in sheep's clothing. They're just reloading and every 2 years versus 4. And so some people would look at the NAIA as kind of like they were a non-qualifier D1. Well, that's based on that institution's academic parameters, right? The NAIA has a shell of academic parameters. Same thing with the NCAA, though, some may argue that it's tighter and going through the clearinghouse, and the NAIA has a clearinghouse now. But still, even within that, it's kind of like the academic standards and rigors of, you could get somebody into A university that's Division I, but you can't get them into B. And both programs are very, very good programs. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you may have the academic standards of the NCAA, which is a great guideline, but then the institution, there are various schools within different regions that, we require a test on English as a foreign language. If I'm looking at an international player, I think our requirement is like 79 or 80, but there's some other schools where it's 56. Mm-hmm. So like that, and that's our standard that we do to ourselves, right? But that's okay, because it's a good academic institution. So it's kind of taking all those things into consideration and making sure that, are you comparing an apple to an apple, right? And really in golf, the label, I think the label really doesn't matter. You have to look at the nuts and the bolts of the program. Where are they playing? Where are they practicing and training? Who are they competing against? It was amazing to me in the first 14 years of my program. I would just fight to get Florida players. I got 6 in 14 years. As soon as we became Division II, all of a sudden I'm a program and a coach of relevance. It wouldn't be Tom, Dick, and Harry. I guess it would be Teresa, Tammy, and whatever, right? Was wanting to, because I wasn't coaching men's golf anymore when we made the transition. I coached men's and women's golf simultaneously for 8 years.
Wow.
In the NAIA. And my best guy friend, Ken Staten, who I think you've met a couple of times, Nicole.
Maybe.
Bully used to caddy for him on the Canadian tour, right?
Yes.
God rest Bully, right?
I know Bully.
But I think you got to meet Coach Ken at the Symetra Tour Championship a few years back. But so Coach Ken Staten is my best guy friend from junior golf, right? And we've been friends since we were 10 years old. And I finally had the opportunity to bring in an assistant, not for much, more like for gas money. But we've been able to kind of grow him, and we had the opportunity to, do we keep a full-time assistant and a director of golf per se, or do we split it? And so my request is split it, because the student athletes deserve to have one person that's dedicated to the program. And then if Ken and I need to help each other out, we've been friends for over 40 years and we help each other out. I mean, we used to train together as juniors, as college players, as professionals. And so when, he needs a little help with his guys and vice versa, we help each other out, and we'll have the teams practice together. It's another thing to look at. Are the men and women practicing together? What are their resources teaching wise? Are the coaches teachers or not? Do they have access to great teachers? All those things. What's study hall? What's academic support? Do they have a strength coach? Right? I'm certified TPI. We have a K-Vest. Ken's got a flight scope. We cross over and help each other out. We've got a nutritionist, Stacy Scrabus, who's amazing, not just for golf, but for all of athletics and the university as well. She started at a local hospital, was volunteering with athletics. The university just brought her in for the university, and then she's maintaining working with athletics as well. What's the support system that you want and that you need and that's available to you? Because that all adds up. And Spencer Phillips, our strength coach, he's the bomb. I mean, he gets golf. It's so refreshing. We talk about the programs together. We write it together. He just, we've got what's called team builder. So how do workouts work? Do you work out with a coach? Are you on your own? Are you in an athletics facility? Are you somewhere else? He built a program. We have an app called Team Builder specifically for golf. They log in. They've got the workout right there. We've got mobility exercises for off days. We've got yoga. We try and look at, my mission is to be a holistic coach, right? Learning and watching Annika do what she did. And from Lynn and Pia and Dr. Cruz and Linda Volstad. I just watched and kind of took that in. And, my daddy always said, find the best, learn from them, don't reinvent the wheel, and just be the best version of you, of what you take from them. And so, that's the lesson that I learned from my dad, who came here with an 8th grade education, didn't speak the language, and forced education, and just sit at the feet, learn, and work hard. And so we've taken that as the foundation of our program as well. And I've been grateful to be around some great players and learn from them and bring that in. So what's the coach in the program doing? Like, how are they doing that? And is it all about bring the score and that's it? Or is it a balance of, I have somebody that qualifies and they're exempt for a tournament. They skip practice. They don't have a great score. They probably don't have their exemption anymore. They might be sitting at home. And so, what's the accountability? What's the structure? Is there a player agreement? Are there standards like that? I think it's super important to know the environment, and if you want that accountability or if you don't.
So you touched on it a little bit, talking about the landscape of scholarships. How is it kind of at not only your school, but like kind of as you see it across D2? Is it something that's kind of a blended, like you were talking about, where it was academic and athletic as much, and what are you seeing?
I think everybody's different. I think it's so individualized by institution. So there are some institutions that are very strict on what they call their tuition discount rate. So if you get an athletic scholarship, you cannot get an academic scholarship. Or if you get one of those scholarships, you're only allowed a certain percentage. There are those cases that a lot of people are not aware that occurs. I would say a majority of our competitors, it's full. Some are just full on athletic support and monies that they're doing. Then there's a lot of institutions where their institutional aid is fully endowed. And so maybe they only have 1 or 2 scholarships for their team per se, but their academic funding is off the charts. So it's just a matter of looking into that. It's very, very diverse, even within our own conference.
So as far as parents go, I don't know, you said you prefer to have somebody that's a very kind of just strong-willed person. What role
I didn't say strong-willed.
Or sorry, independent. Sorry. Determined, yeah.
Responsible.
There you go. Self-motivated. All that good stuff. What
coachable, not strong.
Yeah,
coachable.
Coachable. Sorry. What role do you expect parents to play in the recruitment process? What's the right amount? What's too much? What's too little? What do you think?
I love to see the student athlete take the lead and take the role. Now, with that being said, I understand that there's certain personalities where maybe that would be a challenge because they're extremely introverted and very shy, but that's a part of the maturing and path to adulthood. And so if there's a partnership of the parents, asking questions and helping, that's okay. But I think the preference is the student writes the email, the student writes the text message, the student makes the call. I try and create a boundary of love for parents to come to tournaments, love to see them around, invested, engaged. That's how I got into golf. My parents have been the adopted grandparents of 23 different years of teams, right? So we are a family environment. However, we don't want to have the fun and dysfunctional. So, I'm the coach when they're competing. There's advice giver rules. You keep 30 yards apart. You don't give instruction. There's certain boundaries, what we talk about, what's appropriate at tournaments. Practices are closed. different things like that, to be able for the student to have that professional environment and to have that team environment as well. But we love the family component, and I think I have the best parents in all of college golf. I mean, they travel, they show up, they support, they're unconditional. They give great insights into what their child is all about.
So in the recruiting process, then you are sort of interviewing the parents as well, because you don't want a parent that's overbearing or too involved, or that's why you have good parents on your team currently.
Well, and we look at the whole thing. So I was given some great advice too, by a super successful longtime basketball coach that hired me. That was our AD, Coach Ritter. And he also reminds us, don't punish the kid for something that a family member has done either. You have to be able to kind of look at both sides of something. So I kind of hang back when I'm at junior events. This past summer, I did 2,000 miles in the state of Florida. Just hitting every tournament that I could, just observing, watching. For the most part, what we try and do, and I think a lot of elite programs do this as well, is you try and be looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. And for the most part, I've got my verbals 1 to 2 years out, but till you have somebody signed, that is a binding contract. So till signing happens, it's not official. So you have to continue to evaluate and look. So when I give an offer and I say, this is what you're getting, I stick to that. I've never gone against that. But I have been in the position where I've gotten a verbal from a student, but till they've done the NLI, National Letter of Intent, they can go in a different direction. So I try and do a really good job of whatever I say, whatever I do, whatever I offer, I'm going at that level or going up. I'm not going backwards. And I think it's important to have that integrity. That's what I try and strive for. But I'm watching, how are they dealing with adversity? What's the body language like? Are there hand signals? Are they frustrated? Are they unconditional love to their kids? Are the kids resilient? I can see so much from distance and how they process. And one of the things I talk to my players about is it's okay to get mad. It's okay to be passionate. It's what that causes you to do and what your next step is that you do with that. Right. And then I can go in the scientific route. I'm 6 classes from my PhD, and I did my master's in human factors. And we learned that every thought and emotion has a chemical, hormone, neurotransmitter component. So if you keep hitting anger, you're flooding with cortisol, adrenaline, aldosterone. That takes 45 minutes to get out of your muscles. That's why, like, when you kind of get so angry, it's about 2 holes before you kind of plane it out, right? So I try and work with the students, like, how do you manage that? You still want to feel your feelings, but you don't want them to consume you. And how do you redirect? And
Hey,
something I think.
Can I ask you a question on that front? Does that work the other way too? Like, so when Bryce Harper hit that home run in the playoffs, he said basically he was like, it's such a high. All he could say was, "Holy crap, I just did that! Holy crap, I just did that!" But like, he couldn't, like. How long does it take to bring yourself back down? Sometimes when you're, let's say you have a run of 6 straight birdies and you're like way up here. Like, how do you manage those emotions when you're like way up here even?
Right. So that's, if you ever get a chance to Google and look anything into Dr. Debbie Cruz, she is amazing. And so, there's a lot of different tactics that she talks about, and that what we try and employ is when you recognize, and when you recognize, I just did 6 birdies in a row, and you say, you know what? Let's go do number 7. This is more like me. This is how I do this. And let's go back to the process. You have to bring your back. It's okay to acknowledge it. What a lot of people do is they'll try not to acknowledge it or not talk about it. Acknowledge it, redirect it, and go through it. So you want to have a learner mindset versus a judger mindset. And so my sister, Nancy Lopez, who Nicole knows, but not the Hall of Famer Nancy Lopez, but my Hall of Famer, she's a retired VP of Human Resources from a Fortune 500 company. She's a professional career coach, life coach. She's amazing. She did a presentation to our team this semester about the learner path and the judger path. The judger's like, oh my God, why did I do this? This is wrong. And so, okay, so if you would do it differently, what would that be? That's the learner mindset. So it's acknowledging whether you're doing something well and that gives you a stressor, or you're doing something poorly and that gives you a stressor. How do you replace it, redirect it, go through it versus trying to stop it? Because if I tell you not to think about the pink elephant with the purple polka dots, with the hat and the sunglasses, you just thought about that. But I'm telling you not to think about it.
Yeah.
Right. So our brain. So here's where I'm going to go nutty professor. You pushed my button. Right. I get all excited about the mind and cognition and mindset, and because really it's everything. Right. It mindset is such a powerful tool where you can sheer will a ball into a hole. That doesn't make sense that something happened or that you overcome a tragedy, or, mindset is extremely powerful. And so there's different tools and different ways for everybody. And I love to discover that and, have another tool in the toolbox. And so I would say, if you just acknowledge and name what it is, what's going on, and then what is your process. And I work with our players on what's your decision process, your in-swing process, your post-swing process. And we all have it. I mean, it's just paying attention. What is it that makes you you and how you do you? So then we do that. You don't need to be Nicole. You don't need to be me. You need to be the best version within your gifting and your style and in your personality, what works for you. So you're not flooding yourself with all these, all this different energy, and, just to kind of ride the wave and enjoy it.
Without kind of selling any trade secrets, what are some of the things you trying to work on weekly with your players as far as practices and things like that go?
Mindset.
There you go. Yeah.
So we're in the skill instruction portion, and I've been having some serious fun with them and just talking about foundational stuff, like while we're on the golf course. Like I like to do a lot of situational teaching. So I had a group, Fridays is Fun Fridays. So especially in the skill instruction part, they have teams for the Eagle Cup. They're going to get this ridiculous trophy, obnoxious like bag tag, and they're all like, there's a point for study hall and there's a point for community service, and then if you win the scramble on Friday, or if we do a Ryder Cup or whatever game that we're doing, you accumulate these points, and then you kind of win like the inner squad, right? And so I was out with a group that was doing a scramble, and it was scramble from the red tees. So we can do scramble from the red tees, scramble from the tips. We can do, for our Fun Friday, it's a lot of that application on course pressure testing stuff that we've done. They've had maybe a skill instruction or a lesson day with me one part of the week. They go apply that. They've got short game. They maybe have a play for day score. And I check back in with them. And then we have this kind of proving ground. So, we do different games and drills, but I've got students. This is another thing for recruits to look into, is how is class scheduling done? When is practice? Is coach at practice? So I've got, like I said, some master students that are in class from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. on a Thursday. How do we do practice with that? Practice is at 3 o'clock, right? So coach meets with that player at, from 10 to 12 or 10 to 1, and we'll do some range and we'll do some short game, and then we'll go play a loop, what we call, we're at one of our practice facilities, Oceanside Country Club, and that's where I met Nicole many, many years ago as an amateur before we were professionals. And so, the front nine, Nicole, you can go out 1, down 2, hop over, play 6, come down 6, the par 5, and then hop over the hill and finish on 9, the par 3. So you've just done 2 4s, up and down the wind, a par 5 and a 3. That's a great test after you've had a good practice. So we always try and incorporate a loop. If we can't get a full 9 or 18 in, the loop has been awesome. And then we go out, and sometimes I'll just walk with the players and they'll say, Coach, caddy me, club me, but I ain't carrying the bag. I'm like, yeah, sure. And so I'll tell them, what's the number? What's it playing? What club is that? Where's your win? And so we work through our decision process. So I love doing on course, short game, talking about mindset, having a different perspective, because some players, they kind of get to where, okay, it's all this way. And it's like, no, it doesn't. There are many ways to get to somewhere. I had a player who's like, well, I need to get it to the hole. And I go, well, sometimes you want to be below the hole. And if it goes in, that's fine, but to stay below the hole. And so we had a conversation in the middle of 6 fairway talking about that, and then really working on reality. So you're screaming downwind on brand new greens on one of the firmest greens on the golf course, and it runs out 3 feet behind the hole, and you're upset that you didn't go like this. Like the conditions, like the reality is, that's probably the closest that you're going to get it. So kind of working on, just enhancing playing the game and having context and perspective and creativity, and have fun with that.
Here's a question for you. And I know a lot of juniors get this wrong. And I've asked Nicole about this and love to get your perspective. How much are you actually concentrating during a round of golf?
Boy, that's another Dr. Debbie Cruz research question, because the golf swing takes about a second.
Yeah.
Really. And according to the rules of golf, you've got 30 to 40 seconds to execute the shot, right, before you have a pace of play penalty. So it is very much start and stop, and the human brain really can only engage for about 20 to 45 minutes at a time. So you've got to learn how to chunk it. So I tell my players, take a vacation, right? 20 yards out, we work on what's best for them, and it can be different for everybody, but we start with the template of 20 yards out. You start to look at, where's my ball? Where's the wind? Where's the most space where I want to be? So then by the time you get there and you zap it, you're pulling a club and you're going. And then what I ask them to do, again, I haven't invented any of this that I know of. Maybe it's
all good ideas are stolen.
I'm borrowing and using from Jane Frost, right? Jane Frost, Hall of Fame teacher, was my sister's high school coach. That was my first imprint. And then watching Linda Volstead and Beans Kelly, and then Pia and Linda, Davis Love's daddy was my first real lesson as a junior golfer. And I still take from his lessons from way back then, imparting that. So Maria Lopez has not invented anything. Now I may have a little bit of a loopy flair, or my environment that I create, hopefully of, love, passion, fun, and drive, and we're going to be tough and gritty and whatnot. But, in one of the things that we try and do is hold your finish and observe, receive the information, what the ball's doing, what you're feeling in your body, versus hitting it and reacting and judging. If you hold that finish, that tells you, did I start balance? Was I too quick? Where did I finish? Did I lose my connection? Whatever terminology that you're doing in your swing, and it'll tell you. And then you do a replay swing. You know what? I want it to be more like this. And then you're able to cut it off. You end on a good note, and then go take a break. as soon as you do your replay and as soon as the club goes in the bag, we don't get to think about that shot anymore. Now it's next shot. Now it's something else. Now we're taking a sip of water. Maybe we need to wash that down. Maybe we're doing 5 deep breaths. Again, I didn't invent all this stuff. I just borrowed from everybody else and just tried to bring it into a system that works differently and in different ways for our players. But if you can get discipline in an end routine, you can get more of where you're observing so you can respond versus reacting. It's way more enjoyable. And then your ability to improve, if it increases exponentially. So those are just, the book, Be a Player, mindset, anything from Carolyn Leaf, Duckworth, John Gordon, of course, Rotella, he's the granddaddy and the foundation of a lot of golf psychology stuff. And then
these are all books on tape, right?
What's that?
I can get these books on tape.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I don't like to read that much.
Yeah, you can totally get the podcast, right? You can get the podcast or from Audible or whatever, all these. But the thing about John Gordon books, the print's about this big and there's drawings. So they're great stories. They're an easy read. Versus when I was doing my master's in a sleep study, which Nicole may remember about Dr. Dement, who's from the Chicagoland area.
Of course.
Who's the father of REM, right? His book was 650 pages, The Promise of Sleep, and the print was like this big. It was making you sleepy. We don't do those kind of books.
What, I got one last question to finish on, and that would be, who is your favorite player over the years? And it could be a favorite because of the way they played, their work ethic, like just kind of the perfect. I mean, it sounds like you've had some really cool students especially with the aeronautics angle. But yeah, which one stands out? I would say doesn't need to be a favorite.
No, you're gonna get me in trouble with
Come on.
No, they are
right.
way too competitive.
Good.
I need a disclaimer or a waiver. Like
good Nicole story that none of us would know. Go.
Oh, I ain't doing that either. No,
Oh, come on.
no. Here's what I will say.
Okay.
I've been so blessed with just the different men and women in our program. I mean, it's been a blast. I mean, there's been some really hard times. I mean, all the things from, players losing parents, siblings, family members, losing a player, going through all kinds of different environmental challenges from hurricanes or back home. The resiliency of our players is just amazing. And every player that has played for me is never forgotten. And they've all been a treat in some form or fashion. I love the gutty, gritty players. I have so many funny stories. I had a player, when I started the team, we had one scholarship, and I had 3 players that actually played at a level, and then the other 6 I had to find that they had like just quit the women's soccer team or they hadn't played high school. They hadn't played golf in 3 years. And that's how I'm putting together my first team. Right. And I've got the backup goalie to the soccer team wants to come out for golf. And she was a decent high school player. She goes, I got this friend that just transferred from Georgia, and I think she played some pretty good high school golf. Well, she didn't have her clubs. She hadn't played in 2 years. Right. So I send her out to Riviera Country Club that you may know, Nicole, and I'm like, hey, let's just go play, and you can play with my clubs. She shoots 62.
What?
For 9.
Oh, 9.
Oh.
Oh.
So that player that player though, I'm watching her and she's trying and her attitude is great. But she's got to swing like Freddie Couples. Big, beautiful shoulder turn, amazing tempo. I'm like, we put this girl on the right clubs and actually practice. We got a chance. Fast forward, we did. Senior year, she made the national championship all tournament team. She was the only player to shoot in the 70s from her team all 4 rounds.
Wow.
Right? She went from a 95 average to like a 78 average that season. I mean, that's amazing. And so when you have kids that are coachable, not strong-willed, coachable, determined, right? When you have coachable and determined, and you get to see them, fulfill their potential. And so that player is still in golf. She plays with the CEO of her corporation. She and her husband live on a golf course. He's a former player of mine as well. He's qualified for the mid-amateur. So, we've got, you mentioned Nebraska earlier. One of my alums, she's won the Nebraska mid-amateur championship 2 years in a row. They just started it. Carrie Rowe, Bostar, the Samps. I don't want to get in trouble and name too many players and then forget somebody and then, coaches on the naughty list, but all of them embody the package, right? Student, person, player. And it's neat. They come back with their kids, or I get text messages or they'll show up at a tournament. That's why I coach, right? It's relational, it's transformational, not transactional. And I think it's important to find the environment that works for you. Somebody maybe don't talk to me about this family stuff. I want to go win championships. I don't want you to be my academics or my balance of life. I got that, and that's okay. There are so many different programs out there that can fit everybody. You just have to do the research and really look into what's the environment, what's the resources, and what works for you.
Awesome. No Nicole stories, that's all right. I guess we'll end on this. We appreciate it. This has been awesome information. We got a lot out of there, and it's going to make our players better, and good luck to you in the future.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Loopy. You're a great role model for your kids. You're doing awesome.
I appreciate it. I just can't thank you guys enough for doing this, because there's just not, what's really the nitty gritty of what should we be looking for, and what are coaches doing and not doing. I mean, we can only talk to them based on NCAA guidelines. I want them to reach out, but there's certain times when we can reach out to them and not. So it's good to have that information so they have a chance to get on radar. And but really look at what are the academics, and is that school really a fit for you? And know what you're reaching out to. It's not just doing a complete, shotgun approach.